Hello again, welcome back to the potting shed. Today we have a bit of a houseplant rescue on our hands. This is a poinsettia and there's a bit of a story behind this one. I actually gave this plant to my stepmother last year when I went round for dinner around about Christmas time. If you don't recognise it, it's one of those plants that a lot of people buy at garden centres around Christmas times because of its lovely red leaves, or bracts as they're actually called. And this one I gave to my stepmother and she said, "Oh lovely, another houseplant for me to kill." Well, actually she didn't. She did a very good job of looking after it, and it stayed happy and healthy all the way through until this year. Where are we now? Late October. So over dinner the other day she said to me, "Andy, can you take away the poinsettia and try and get the red leaves back for me again, and then bring it back in time for Christmas?" So we've got a bit of a job on our hands. As you can see, the red leaves have gone and it's all green, but the good news is what is here is actually fairly healthy. But as you can see, it's a little bit leggy. It's lost some leaves recently lower down, which is slightly worrying, and obviously no red leaves. Now, if you've got a poinsettia and you want to get the red leaves back, I'll call them leaves just because it's easier to say than bracts every time, and you'll know what I mean. Bracts are simply a modified leaf that get produced just before the small flowers, and they kind of look like flowers themselves, but they're only produced in the winter for a short period of time, then the leaves turn back to green. Now if you've got a poinsettia like this and you'd like to get the red leaves back in time for Christmas, then do keep watching all the way to the end, because there's some very specific things you need to do in order to get those leaves to come through. Now this one is going to be even harder because not only have we got to get the red leaves back, but it's not the healthiest at the moment. We've lost some leaves, which to me says it's probably got a little bit cold. It's either lack of light or it's got a bit cold. Now I'm going to say probably it's got a bit chilly at some stage. That's usually with poinsettia when they start dropping leaves. Hopefully it hasn't got too cold, because once they start getting properly cold, there's not much you can do. Unfortunately, they're on their way to their demise and to the composting bin. But the rest of the leaves that I can see are looking good. It's actually coming out with new leaves, and the new leaves look happy and healthy. So I'm going to be optimistic and say we can do something with this. And I like the idea of the challenge of getting the red bracts to come back out for Christmas. The only big snag is, where are we? Towards the end of October, and really we should be starting this process in late September, early October. So we're potentially a month behind in this process. So I need to do two things. I need to try and get this plant healthy again, growing strongly, and also producing the red leaves. Before I tell you what you need to do, let's go over a quick care guide for the plant. This is a native to Mexico. So it likes a warm environment and a medium light environment. It doesn't want direct sun, but it doesn't want it too dark either. It wants a reasonably light environment without direct sun. It is a little bit picky when it comes to temperature. It doesn't want to get too cold at all. It doesn't want to get too wet either, and it certainly doesn't want to get cold and wet, and that will definitely kill it off. So somewhere between 15 and 18 degrees is ideal. You could probably get it up to 20 degrees and it would still be okay, in my opinion. If that's the ambient temperature of your house, you're okay, but it will appreciate some higher humidity levels. So if you do have a humidifier machine for your houseplants, that's going to be beneficial too. They will prefer to stay a little drier than too wet. If it's going to die, it will usually die from overwatering rather than underwatering. So the best watering procedure is give it a good water, then take it out of its pot. If you've got it in a pot like this, tip away the excess water. Now, after that, don't water it again until a good section of the soil has dried out again. It doesn't want to stay wet, and it doesn't want to stay too wet for too long, especially if the temperatures drop. It's going to be a big problem. Now the poinsettia is what's called photoperiodic, which means it changes based on the light levels throughout the year. And the reason why it gets these beautiful red bracts in time for Christmas is in reaction to the lower light levels around late autumn and then the winter time. So in order for us to create that same environment, what we need to do is bring down the light levels drastically to trigger it into producing those leaves. The best way we can do that is to give it complete darkness for 16 hours at a time, and then bright indirect light for 8 hours. This ensures the plant gets a signal loud and clear that there is a much shorter growing period. The light levels have shortened. It then starts producing the red leaves. But there's one thing you have to get right, is it needs complete darkness. If you put it in a darkish room, but there is a light somewhere, even if it's a low light over the other side of the room, that's not good enough. It needs to be in total darkness. So ideally you need to find a space which is completely devoid of light for at least 16 hours each 24-hour cycle. Something like a cupboard which is big enough to get it into, but there's no light getting in there at all. You also don't want it to be too cold, because it needs to stay within that 15 to 18 degree window, or it's going to start dropping its leaves and we're going to have some trouble. I've got a cupboard in my bedroom which has enough space to fit it in. So each morning when I get up, I'll take it out and put it into the next door room, which has a lot of bright indirect sunlight. It also has my humidifier machine in there and all my other plants. So the humidity levels are going to be higher. It's centrally heated and the sun comes through the window, so it will comfortably stay at around 18 degrees. And the trick to make this work is it then needs a decent amount of light in that 8-hour window to get it growing nicely. There needs to be that contrast from total darkness into decent light, but no direct sun on the leaves. Yeah, I know, it's a bit tricky. So there's no guarantee with this, especially this one, which could be healthier, quite frankly. If I had my hands on this at the beginning of the year, what I would have done is cut this right back to stimulate more side shoots, and then we'd have a bigger canopy of the plant, which means more shoots and more opportunity to create those red bracts. But we've got what we've got, and so I'll just work with what I have, and fingers crossed it will work. What I think I'm going to do with this one is give it some liquid fertilizer, some high potassium liquid fertilizer, something like a tomato feed will do. Now, I wouldn't normally feed it at this time of year. Ideally, I'd be feeding it throughout the summer period when it's actively growing to help it put on that energy and vigor. But we're at the end of the year, it probably hasn't had any food throughout the year. So just a weak tomato feed, a diluted tomato feed on this one will maybe help it, give it a little bit more energy for what we need to try and do, and maybe stimulate some lower down growth. But we really are pushed for time here to get these red leaves out. It's going to need the best part of an 8-week period of the photo restriction, and where we are right now, that will take us to the week before Christmas. So there's no guarantees of this, but I'll do my best. I'll give it the best opportunity I can, and let's see if we can pull this off in time for Christmas. Fingers crossed. So if you're watching this and you want to do it with your plant, don't forget 16 hours of total darkness. Don't let it get below 15 degrees Celsius. Then bright indirect sunlight for the rest of the 8-hour period. And you have to be consistent. You need to get it in every day into the light and every night into the dark, and be consistent of that dark light process all the way through the 8 to 10 week period to stimulate those red leaves to come out. And once they do start coming out, then you can bring it out into the sunlight and keep it out, because any amount of red leaves will show that it's got the trigger, it's got the cue, and it will start producing more leaves anyway. So you can leave it in bright indirect sunlight within that temperature window at that stage. If I somehow manage to pull off a miracle and get this to work, next year what I'll probably do in the springtime is give it a chop right back, and we'll see if we can really get it into a nice big healthy plant for Christmas next year. But let's cross each bridge when we come to it, and let's just see if we can get some red leaves, at least a few, for my stepmother at Christmas. I'll add this all in one video, so keep watching and we'll find out if I managed it. Okay, a bit of an update. It's the beginning of December, 9th of December, and we are starting to see some red coming out on the new leaves. So something is starting to happen, but I fear that we're running out of time. The idea of having an abundance of red leaves coming out is probably looking unlikely, but I don't know how quickly these are going to colour up. It's been fed, it's been kept watered, the leaves are looking healthy, but how much growth are we going to get in the next couple of weeks? I don't know. Here's another one, as you can see. Definitely getting some red pigmentation. There's another one over here. Let me see if I can spin round. This one, there's a fair bit of red pigmentation on that one. So I think we're getting some success. But how much are we going to get in the remaining time? There's like a couple of weeks left before Christmas now. Plants just don't do things in a hurry. And we did start quite late with this experiment. So I think I am going to get the desired results. But in time for Christmas, we'll have to wait and see. Stay tuned. Okay, here we are. It's the final update in this series. Sorry for the shaky cam work. I do not have this on a tripod. I apologise. So this is the day that I'm taking the poinsettia back to my stepmother for Christmas. And so here we are. I've had some success in that some of the leaves are red. Some of them are going red by the day. And this one is the best one. Really vibrant red, quite small. It hasn't been out long. They are coming and they are growing bigger. So really, we've just run out of time. I think another few weeks and this would look really good. I think you can see here in the center, all of these ones coming out in the center now will be red. And yeah, I think it's going to be fine. But yes, I was given it without enough time, really, but I like a challenge and you want to try and see what you can do. And yes, so I think the proof of concept is there. It certainly managed to simulate enough darkness time to get it to bring the red leaves back, but simply you need a good 2 or 3 months really to make it happen. Things don't happen in the plant world overnight, unfortunately. So if you want to try this for yourself, I think given a decent amount of time, then it's certainly possible. I'll try and do an update on this plant in another month or so next time I go back, and I'll see if I can show you the update. But yeah, I'm happy. The leaves are going red. They actually look very pretty. The rest of the leaves are very healthy, and I think my stepmother will be happy that I have more or less fulfilled the brief, even if it's not quite there in another few weeks at her house. It certainly will be. Alright, so if you want to give this a go for yourself, please do, and let me know in the comments how you get on. But for this video, this pretty much wraps it up. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this and found this useful, please give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. And please subscribe if you haven't done so already for more houseplant related videos coming along very soon. Bye for now.